So now we're live streaming, and I have a little link here that I'll put in our course. And this is the link for this week's, that every week we'll have a podcast. And I've left the subsequent weeks in there. So weeks 2, 3, and 4 already have the podcast from last spring 2016, I think it is, or summer 2016. And so this is actually a live link right now. Okay. So I sent everybody an announcement, and one of the things in the announcement was the getting started prior to first meeting. We'll go over that. The first link was getting to know about the course, which is just a link to Spark animation on iOS course. And this was a video I won't watch now, but you can watch later. These are 3 students that first took that spring 2013 course that developed an app called Bubble Baller, an underwater basketball game. And they're all 3, believe it or not, still working on the app. They're on their 4th version, I think. And so, and even though all of them are scattered all over the US, so I think it's kind of cool. But 9 years of Apple's iOS development platform has generated $60 billion, 1.4 million jobs. That's a lot. And it's still going. And I hopefully will share my experience with you on creating mobile apps and publishing mobile apps. It is a #1 language when it comes to new mobile app developers. And the iOS Swift app development language has only been out since 2014. And so not a long time. Summer 2014 is when it came out. So it's a very young language. And so I always tell students, and it's still true today, it's changing so much even now, not as much as it was the first year or 2. But, I'm still learning as I'm going on, developing apps and things. But it is a fun language. And it's the reason Apple switched from Objective-C, which used to be the initial language, to Swift, was because Objective-C, anybody taken C++ before? Or C, maybe, possibly? It's older than that. Objective-C was older than that. And so an example was to do a simple launch a web page in Objective-C took about 20 lines of code. Swift now takes like 3 lines of code. So that's the difference. One of them, just real quick, some similarities. And so the complexities are greater actually in Swift than they were Objective-C because it's a newer language and it can develop new gaming engines, which they've done with Sprite Kit, like we're going to go over this week. But it's much easier for new developers to grasp because the syntax is much easier to understand logically than Objective-C. No textbook for the course. There will be a PDF that we'll go over in just a second that hopefully will save you some money. And that's the way a lot of programming courses are going anyway. They're no text. They're just using a lot of online resources or instructor developed resources. We're going to do the same in here. And so I've already went over all the basically everything we're going to be doing till the end. But you can definitely view that. If you have an iOS device, you can download our CIS app. Droid, we also have a CIS app as well. And then you can also look at programming certificates that we have to offer here at CIS. We also have a new feature in the last year called Where Are They Now? And this is a highlight of CIS folks that have went on to do great things. So I would avail yourself to that. All right. So registering an Apple ID. Some of you say you had issues with registering with your student ID. If that's the case, you can register with a Gmail account, but create a brand new Gmail account if you have issue registering with your student ID. And so between now and next Saturday, I need everybody to register a brand new Apple ID. It has to be brand new for Apple to have you a part of the development platform for students. This link will send you to how to create an Apple ID, and you can use your existing email which I want you to try the student one first. But if you're having issues with that, just create a brand new Gmail to do that. Make sense? Once you do that, if you do have a Mac, we're using Sierra, the latest OS for Mac, Xcode, the latest version, which is 8.2, I believe. If you don't have a Mac, you'll be fine. You can do stuff here on campus, and you'll be great to complete your assignments. Because most of the time, the in-class, we're modifying. The homework assignment is generally a modification of the in-class. It always is a modification of the in-class. So you're not starting something from scratch. You're just modifying something we've already started building on here in the classroom. So online text, this is a PDF I do recommend everybody to download. And it's on iOS 10, and it's on the development platform. And I'll go over more on what I'd like for you to read between now and next week. It's a really good text over iOS 10. And so you can port it to your phone or tablet or whatever. But it goes over everything iOS 10, which you'll need to know. GitHub, you'll be signing up for GitHub this week. GitHub is a online source control for source code for developers. And I use it in PHP, Swift, VB.NET. I just got through teaching a PHP class this semester, or a JavaScript class, and we used GitHub for that. And all the students created their website using GitHub, and that's a nice thing. And GitHub basically is free for students to use. You can sign up for an educational account, which will give you, I think, 5 private repos to have. And a repo basically is a repository for your source code, and a private one means people can't see it. By default, when you sign up for GitHub, everybody sees your stuff, your code. And as a developer, I like doing that. I like people, if I've created something I've been working on a while, I like to share that information with the developing community, because it just helps apps all together, I think, to become better and easier for people to use and implement. And so just share the knowledge, and that's what GitHub does. So you'll be signing up for GitHub starting next week. We'll be using that in class. There's some tips and tricks on this. This is my page on my website that basically launches some tips and tricks for developers in iOS. And it has old and new stuff in here both. I just kind of keep adding to it. If it's new, I put new to the right of it. So, you know, Apple Watch just recently came out, so I've started some Apple Watch development. The new Apple TV opened up its source code for developers now as well. So a whole bunch of good resources in there. But you notice I also have old stuff that I've kept in here for like Objective-C days, because some people developers still develop in Objective-C as well as Swift. De facto coding helper, Stack Overflow. Remember I told you about some colleges, a lot of colleges now don't offer a textbook for technical programming courses. This is a de facto website, Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a place where developers can help and find answers both on any coding problem. And so it's available for all languages. So as you can see here, when I click tags, these are just some of the languages. It's just a snapshot of some of the languages in Stack Overflow that have been, questions been asked and been answered. Like for instance, C# is a high one, PHP. Just 473 have been asked today alone, 8:30. so, you know, that's pretty, and this is worldwide used, right? And so, but even like what we're working on here with Swift 3 is what we're working on. So questions are asked in here, and as you can see, some of these have no answers yet, but then some of them do. And then what's cool about the answers when they're given is developers, the person asking the question will vote on that and say, yeah, it worked, didn't work, whatever. And so it's a good benchmark for developers to go to, new and old both, and to ask questions and to help. So Swift 3, which just came out recently, already has 12,000, almost 13,000 questions. So Stack Overflow is a de facto go-to for all developers of any language. So if you're learning other languages or you're developing other languages, definitely bookmark Stack Overflow. That's why I put it in the bookmark section. Swift cheat sheet. I have in your binder, if I'm not mistaken, if we want to go to that real quick. This is the one I really like that's in your binder. I think it's towards the back 3 sheets. The back 3 sheets of your binder goes over the cheat sheet, which I think I still have it here. So this was nice because it's a really quick view. So we go back out. A really quick overview of common go-to questions and references that you need as a developer, like variables, functions, classes, instances, controls, strings, options, arrays, dictionaries, closures, generics, guards and defer, tuples, and error handling. So it's a really, really quick, down and dirty cheat sheet that definitely is good to have. And then if you do have an iPhone or iPad, there is a book, Swift book out. There's a link that goes to that. And recommend that, definitely. And then like us on Facebook and Twitter, not just for the course, but also if there's job postings in iOS. I know like this semester I've got a couple projects going on in iOS for the campus and then also for some companies. So if you're interested in further helping learning in iOS after this class, you can definitely, I'll utilize you and put you to work and keep learning. You'll keep learning basically, and again, a project-based learning environment. The summer months, I know it's hard to get students, especially if they aren't taking courses, but since you're already taking a course, it's good to grab you now, right after you get through this one. If you want to help and learn more, let me know and I'll put you down to help me for sure over the summer. So when you click next here, it's a discussion on basically just mobile apps. Tell us what mobile apps you use on a daily basis and why, and then that's it. So just kind of a feel for that. I know some of you already put in there some stuff. Music, it looks like. WhatsApp, that's a popular one. Snapchat's a popular one as well. So just put in there whatever it is you use and why you use it. Just kind of, again, building some type of community here the first week. I know everybody. I know one of the apps I go to a lot on both my iPhone and my iPad is Notes app. I use that all the time for everything. For like coding notes, meeting notes. It doesn't matter what it is. I use Notes app for everything. And Doug's shaking his head. He uses it too, I guess. So Notes app, again, is a very simple app, but I like it because I can search my notes from like 2 years ago, stuff I've written down, and I know the keyword I'm looking for. And Notes is one I just use all the time. Another one I use because I do social media a lot is Canva is another one. It creates really cool graphics. And then one recently I've been using is Replit, Replit. It's an app for creating animated social media posts. Let me see if I can find it. Not Replit. That's what we'll be using in this one. I will find it here. Ripple, not Replit. Ripple, let me pull that up. RPL, I believe. Helps to put L in there. There it is. So it's social media post boosting. What's cool about it is it has all these cool like templates that you can add in pictures and fly in text. And then once you post it to the social page, whatever you're managing a social site or something, it'll give you analytics of who's visited that post immediate analytics. And so it gives one free template a day that they give you I've never paid for it, but they do have a paid version where you do get tons of cool stuff. But I think it's like $10 a month or something like that. But the free one is the one I've used. So I use this a lot, probably the last year. It's a really cool one. And you do social media stuff. It's a really nice one to use, RIPL. Definitely recommend it. So once you post your discussion, that's due tonight at 11:59. That's the getting started. Questions on getting started? All right. Let's go into open lab hours. Monday through Thursday, 8 to 3:45 in this lab. And there is some evenings. I haven't yet find out from Deb what the evening hours are going to be, but as soon as I do, I'll post them. I know there will be evening hours in this lab, but for right now, for sure, I know it's 8 a.m. to 3:45 in this classroom. Is open for you guys exclusively, Monday through Thursday and Friday to 12:45. Because summer hours, I think, start this next week for the college, something like that. And so, but I know we'll be getting some evening hours. I know some of you might work days and you need evening hours. We have them. I know for sure, almost positively, Deb will tell me Monday, but I think Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be able to go to like 7:45 or 8:45, I think, something like that on Tuesday and Wednesday. So anyway, I'll update that and let you know as soon as those are updated. Let's see, podcast went over that, live chat. This one goes to a chat page if I'm available. It'll tell you I'm available. I'm not currently available because I'm right here. But if I am available, you can quickly chat with me on something, or you can put in there your question. It'll come right to me. Course facts goes over everything that we've already covered. Let's see what else. Course assessment over that. Open discussion. This is a place for you to post course and non-course related items. I encourage you to not only post, but also reply to posts. So I'll try to stay out of this. If you have, like, say you're getting ready to buy a phone, or you're getting ready to sell a phone, you want to know where to sell it, stuff like that, computer questions, technical questions, even politics, as long as you keep it civil, I don't care. Post away. And again, since we only meet once a week, it's kind of a community way to build, collaboration and communication. So definitely check it once a day or whatever, and feel free to post whatever questions you want to in here. All right, definitely use it. So I put it in there for you. I know some classes they only want class related, but I find out with technical classes, it seems to any of my online classes, I always have an open discussion area for people just to discuss whatever. Because I know if they come back for that reason, a lot of times they'll go in to and find things in the course that maybe they didn't know or didn't understand, that they can get that information while they're in there in open discussion. Okay, week one, let's click on that. The first two actually, is just getting around Xcode and getting around Swift. Now, Xcode is the de facto environment for iOS programmers. It's the IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, and you'll hear that with other programming languages as well. Like with VB and C#, it's Microsoft Studio, Visual Studio. With mobile app developers for iOS, it's Xcode. Unity is another one I already mentioned. That's a platform a lot of people use for cross-platform development. But we'll go over that in just a second, kind of. And it's in your binder, by the way, I believe starting on page 4 or 5. I think the page numbers is from the actual book PDF. It says chapter 4, I think. The guided tour of Xcode 8, I think is what it says. That's what we'll be kind of go over and over. It looks like that right there. So we'll go over that, kind of getting around Xcode, what it's all about, the screen layout, all that fun stuff. Then we'll get into the fun stuff of creating. Every programming course always does this at first class. Anybody know what that is? First class? Hello World. We'll do a Hello World in Swift for sure. We'll definitely do that. But then we'll jump into using what's called Playground, which is what it sounds like in Swift, where you learn variable syntax in a playground environment. And when Swift was created, the developers had a great idea, which was, let's create a playground for new developers, even experienced developers, to go in and kind of sandbox stuff. Just kind of play around with code. It's not really anything you would do in a live app, but something, what would this code do if we did this? Whether it be a calculation, whether it be an animation, little snippets of code work great in Xcode and also in the playground area. A playground is an area for developers to play with code to see what it does. So we'll be doing a couple of them in class. You'll have one take home you'll be doing as well on getting to know Swift and using Playground. And I've started using a free program to where you can basically sign on to this program, and you can do multiple languages on it, and Replic's the name of it, the one I mentioned earlier, where you basically can replicate code environments in an online web version website from mobile phone, desktop, laptop, and it'll render and compile and show you what it looks like. Without actually having to be on Xcode and be on a Mac, you'll be doing that as well. So then we'll go over week 1 notes, which is on the gaming platform Sprite Kit. A tutorial on the week 1 notes, by the way, what you'll be doing is creating a screenshot or a picture of your head sideways on the Mac, and you'll be everybody's seen those stick figures? You played with stick figures before on paper? You'll be creating a stick figure basically of yourself with your head on top of it. I'll be collecting those, and I'll put it into a game basically, and a shoot 'em up game type thing. And you'll be the shooter basically in the game. And then the tutorial will be a hands-on demo of what I'm just mentioning. I'll take some of your headshots, bring them in. I'll collect them actually on your Macs from my Mac using AirPlay. Basically AirDrop, I'm sorry, not AirPlay. AirDrop on a Mac basically is a utility to where you can transfer files quickly in a lab environment or work environments. We'll be using that. And then we'll go over the week 1 assignment, which we have 3 of them in there, I believe. One is setting up GitHub. One is setting up your Apple ID, I believe, and tell me what the ID is. And one other one on Playground tutorial. Podcast already went over. And prep for week 2, I do want to go over real quick so we don't forget. I don't forget to do this. For week 2 prep, there's a number of brand new Playground templates that Apple put together I really like. And it'd be helpful. And these, there's a zip file you'll download, and there's 8 lessons 0 through 8 and it loads in Playground. And what's nice about the environment is it's really nicely done and put together and easy to understand and flows through. It has like little next buttons to go as you're going through it. This one I'd recommend between now and next Saturday, going through Playground basics, naming, strings, hello world, functions, BoogieBot, which is a cool little animation game that shows you how Swift can do animation. And then lastly, anything on variables. So not real long. Any of them aren't real long. You can go through them pretty quick. But the learning is very rich. It's a real engaged learning, which I really like. And they just released these like 2 weeks ago, and they're really nicely put together. So that between now and next week would be great. And then reading the downloaded PDF. I put a link here as well. It's the same PDF on the homepage and on the Getting Started. Chapters 4 through 6 go over getting around Xcode, getting around Swift Playground, and variables. That's it. So covering that would be helpful by next Saturday. All right, so let's go back to the first week 1 getting around Xcode. So what we're going to do now is create a hello world in Xcode. So at the bottom of your Mac, there's a little icon that looks like this. That's Xcode. The other one we'll be using starting next week in here is GitHub. This little guy here. We won't be using it this week, but next week we will. And this is our source control. We'll be getting all of our code from. But go ahead and click on Xcode. As soon as you click on Xcode, it might bounce a couple times. And then on the upper left corner, like mine, you'll see where it says Xcode pop up there on the screen. Walk around, make sure you can see that. Now, if you click the Xcode menu, the upper left corner, and go to the About, it should be Xcode 7 or something right now. They're going to be upgrading that this week. So between now and next Saturday, it should be Xcode 8. It does be upgrading that. Right now, I think most of you should have Xcode 7. Is that right? Xcode 7 something. But next week will be 8 point something, 8.2 or something like that. So we're going to do a general overview, create our first hello program, and then I'll have you submit done here when we're done. So if you click on the file menu in Xcode, right to the right of Xcode there, and I'm doing it with you on the overhead, go to New Project. And as soon as you pop it up, you'll notice all the different levels of apps you can create, right? iOS, that's what we'll be playing with here the next few weeks, 4 weeks. watchOS, tvOS, OS X, which is the Mac, and then other. Now, if you go to the other one, these are older platforms that, and then some new, like in-app purchase. You might have seen those in some of your apps. That's real popular. That's where all developers make most of their money, by the way, is the in-app purchases. I mean, tons of money's made on that. But we'll be playing with the iOS family. And you'll notice the different types of iOS apps that can be created. You got master detail. That's basically on the left side of the app, you've got a menu. On the right side of the app, you have something you load when you hit a menu. The page-based, that one is basically flipping through pages like a magazine. Okay, it could be page-based. Single view is the one I generally use mostly. The reason I use it mostly is with single view, and we'll be doing that one in a second, you can add anything you want to a single view. It's kind of like a blank canvas. Tab view or tab application is where you see this on your apps. Some of your apps has tabs at the bottom of the app to go to certain things, certain pages, like admin, game, profile, whatever. Gaming, we'll be looking at a gaming platform this morning in Sprite Kit. Cocoa Touch is an older platform for 3D rendering, which was when Objective-C first came out, that's all we had available to us was Cocoa Touch. We had to bring it in third party. Now it's a part of iOS. And then the Cocoa Touch static library. The one most developers use today, though, for gaming is this one right here, which is the Sprite Kit gaming platform. So if everybody will select single view application and then click next. For the product name, I want you to go ahead and type in hello world, cap H and cap W, all one word. Most of the time on a gaming or a naming convention for product name, if you have more than one word, you generally use a bookcase like that. You have the camel case, first letter caps on each one of the words, all shoved together. Organization name, if you don't already have it in there, you might, or you should hopefully. It's Rock Valley College. And then the organization identifier is kind of a reverse domain in Apple. So it's it could be a com.cconkle or a com.whatever ABC. This one's a edu.rockvalleycollege. And then you'll notice an identifier, edu.rockvalleycollege.helloworld. That's the full identifier that Apple has to have if we were to submit this eventually, say, to the App Store. They have to have a fully qualified identifier that's tied to your account on Apple's developer website. Now, as a student, you get a free account. That's why I'm having you sign up for that iCloud the first week. With the free account, you can develop all day long for free, but you can't publish it to the App Store with that account. If you want to do that, you have to pay a $99 yearly developer license, which is worth it if you're wanting to develop stuff to the App Store. If you don't want to develop stuff to the App Store, you don't need it at all. You can do what's called side loading, which we'll talk about the next 4 weeks, what that's all about. Or basically, you create an app, connect your iOS to your Mac, and you can publish it to multiple devices. Up to 200 devices that app can be pushed out to, which for most developers that are working in business or they're wanting just to create something for friends and family, That's perfect. You don't really need, if you don't want to push it to the App Store, you don't have to. Apple changed about 6 months ago, actually been 8 months ago now, where it used to be hard to do side loading. Now they've built it in. So side loading is a default. So basically anybody that has Xcode, gets an Xcode file now and has a Mac, can load it on their Mac, plug in their iOS device, and load an app on their iOS device. Whereas used to, you couldn't do that. Now, granted, there are some still limitations that Apple's put in that. There's some things you can still not get to as a developer in the iOS platform. Like, for instance, you can't mess with the thumbprint device that does authentication with your thumbprint. Developers can't touch that yet. We also can't touch some features that have to do with the pay security on the Apple Pay. Can't touch that. But pretty much everything else they've opened up for folks to use to do whatever it is they want to do. That's within reason. That's not going to be an encroachment of personal rights or private rights. All that stuff is still locked down. So, and that's a good thing. So on the bottom here, make sure it's Swift. You'll notice, though, Objective-C is still available for developers. Because believe it or not, there's still about 30% of developers that still develop full-time in Objective-C. And that'll probably stay the same. And then Universal iPhone or iPad. Universal is what Apple recommends. And what that means is it'll run both on an iPhone or iPad. But there's some apps that will not work well on an iPhone. Like, for instance, a gaming app. Like a big gaming app that's, say, I don't know, let's think of like Black Ops or something. Probably wouldn't work well on an iPhone, a full version of Black Ops or something from like EA Games. So it might only work well on an iPad only. And there are iPad only apps because of that, because the screen just isn't big enough for to hold the app. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do what now? Okay. Go back to the very top. Go ahead and hit cancel. And go to Xcode and quit. And then go to Xcode about. Okay. I'll go ahead and X there. And then go to File and Project. There you go. And then click Next. Here's where you'll type in hello. And so Universal is one that I recommend when you're starting out. But again, there's going to be some apps that are going to have to be iPad only, or I've even seen apps that are iPhone only. Like, for instance, navigational apps. A lot of times are iPhone only because it's not de facto for iPads to have some of the navigational cellular chips that are needed and for GPS. So you'll see that. But we'll go ahead and do the universal. We'll leave it at universal. And we'll uncheck the last two checks here. Core data is something we'll be playing with a little bit in week 3 with backend database. That's basically Apple's SQL database for your app. So once you have that, you have Hello World, Rock Valley College, organization name, the identifier, and bundle identifiers already in there for you. Swift language, universal. Then you're ready to click next. By default, it might send it to the desktop possibly on yours. Let's push it over to documents on the left. So just click documents on the left side of your Mac, and it'll put it in your, you won't have as much as I do in yours because I've been playing with mine all morning. So click documents. Once you click documents, make sure and do not check this Git repository because we'll be using, eventually we'll be using GitHub for that. And then click create. And then it should come right to this screen. I'll make sure everybody has that before we go on. Great. And so basically what you're looking at here, on the left side of the screen is you have all the files that are in your project. Every file that's in your project is on the left side of the screen. The middle portion of the IDE is where all the work's going to be done, where all the objects are going to be added, all the code's going to be added. The right side, on the upper right corner, is basically going to be the solution files, properties. So when you click on an object here in the middle section somewhere, over here is the properties for that. Down in the bottom right corner, if you'll click on this icon right here, the one that's a circle, this one here is the one developers hang out the most. This is the object library that will, in just a second, be able to see a whole bunch of stuff pop up. That's where you can add in labels, buttons, text boxes, web browsers, all that fun stuff. Navigational bindings, gaming kits, map kits. So let's talk of the middle part here. You'll notice you'll see some things that are similar already. You've seen the naming up bundle identifier, you got that. Versioning, the only thing I'll talk about that right now is when you are developing apps and you're developing different versions, Apple requires you, if you update an app on the App Store, makes sense, you got to change the version number to something different. And you also have to modify the description of what it is that you changed. A lot of times you'll see developers just put minor bug fixes. That's usually a de facto. You don't know what those bug fixes were, but they say minor bug fixes. It could have been major, but it is a minor usually, most of them do. And by the way, one of the reasons developers do that, and I've done that myself, is if you put in there a lot of detail, Apple will sometimes frown upon that and take longer to approve it than just minor bug fixes. Well, sometimes, and then you can put the list of bug fixes on your website or something for folks to go to. That's what I generally do. On the team, you won't have anything in there right now, and that's fine, but generally starting next Saturday, we'll be adding yourself to a team, which is Rock Valley College. I can't do that right now because you're not part of the team yet, but you will be next Saturday. That's why it's important to get that iCloud account created between now and next Saturday. And just as long as you have it done by next Friday is fine. That's great. Deployment target. This will tell you the deployment target for, it'll actually by default give you the latest deployment target for that Xcode environment. So this one is 9.3. By next Saturday, it'll be like 10 point something because it will be upgraded to Xcode 8.2 or whatever. The thing on this you need to remember is if I was to connect my iPad or my iPhone to this Mac, I have on my iPhone iOS 10 right now. So if I try to deploy 9.3 to 10, that would be fine because it's lower than 10. But let's say, for instance, I have a 9.0 on my iPhone, and I try to deploy an app developed in 9.3, wouldn't work, wouldn't let me do it. Make sense? So that's the only thing you got to remember. Now, and there are phones sometimes that you'll be testing. One of the things I recommend when people test apps is that they upgrade the latest OS that they need to be on for testing. And 9 times out of 10, they already are, but sometimes they're not. They have an older device. And there are some older devices in iOS that will only upgrade to a certain version. It will stop at like version 8.2 or something. In those cases, they just can't do any testing if it's a newer app or a newer version. That makes sense? Then the device universal main interface is basically, we'll see that in just a second. Then these device orientation basically tells you how the device can be oriented. Right now it's set by default to be portrait, and you can both landscape it left or right, and it'll move. That app will move accordingly, according to the user. But now a lot of games will do this, and you don't need to uncheck yours, but they'll just have like landscape left and right, and that's it, because they literally will only work in landscape mode. It will not render portrait. And so like the game we'll be demoing today only does portrait mode only, which a lot of your games do portrait mode only anyway. Everything else, hide status bar sometimes you'll need for gaming, requires full screen sometimes you'll need for gaming. It takes up the full screen. App icons we'll get into, basically where you can create your own app icons. The launch screen is what you'll see here in a second pop up when we play this. So let's go ahead and do this. Upper left corner, there's a play button. It says build and run the current scheme. Click on that play button. And whatever simulator you're on, mine's on iPhone 6s Plus. I don't know what your guys' is set to. You'll see the simulator, by the way, where my mouse is hovering on the overhead right here. How many is in 6 Plus? iPhone 6 Plus. Okay, that's fine. Whatever it's set at, though, should be fine. Whatever yours is set at. Now, you'll notice you're like, okay, nothing's happening. But it is. Right here, there's a simulator starting to render. And I just tell students just to wait. It'll eventually pop up. It is a very intense process that's happening. So it takes some time. The first time when you render it. After that first time, though, you're good to go. Every other succession after that, it renders pretty quickly. But that first time, generally, it's a little slower because if you click on that, it's not going to hurt anything. If you click on that, it's just this big black screen. And we can do this now, by the way, while it's still loading. If you click on that simulator icon, go to Window menu, Scale, and I'm going to put mine like at, say, 50%. I'll have to go 33%, looks like. Let's try 33%. So you see the whole thing. You might not have to go down that low on yours. My resolution's a little higher than yours, I think. So whatever resolution you have to go to see the whole phone in front of your screen is fine. And what it's doing here is loading ever so slowly the Apple icon. And the first time, again, depending on how long it's been since it's loaded, the way these Macs work in here is when you shut the Macs down, it's like a fresh install every time. So it takes a while. And I'll remind you next Saturday when we come in, what I generally have students do is as soon as you come in, fire up Xcode and just run any app. It doesn't really matter what. Just start a brand new project like we did just to get the simulator to run because it takes a little bit to start up the first time. Mine's just now starting to show a little white. But once it starts, it goes pretty quick. And I always tell this joke around this time, or it's not really a joke, just a kind of humor, programming humor. You know, I had my grandson ask me once, how do they figure out the line time? Is that like real? Like they can tell how long it's going to take? No. Programmers usually just put that in to make people think something's happening. Or something is happening, but they don't know exactly when it was happening sometimes. So just a little wait symbol. It might say 3% now, then 50%, and back to 40%, it's 70%. So you've seen that before maybe on updates and stuff. So and again, just to let people know something's going on. So eventually we'll get to this screen. It'll pop up a blank white screen, which is the launch screen, which we'll change in a second. And eventually go to the home screen, which has nothing on it right now. Okay? So what's cool about this, let me talk about the simulator while we have it up here. If you go to the hardware menu of the simulator, go to the hardware menu and go to like rotate left. You'll see, and then go back up there and rotate left again until it comes back to portrait. And so what you're doing basically is simulating the rotation of that device. If you go back to hardware and go to home, it'll take you back to the home screen of that. And I'm going to keep rotating mine until it gets back to the right. There you go, back to the portrait mode. And so here's the app actually that we just created, the Hello World with a blank white icon, that ugly icon there. That's the one we just created. If we click on it, it'll launch it back again. Okay, and so literally you can test your app just that way in your simulator. And so over time on a Mac, you can imagine your simulated device can become just like a real device with apps loaded that you've been working on. And you can go to that simulation and test it basically. And it's fairly close in timing as a real in some cases. But in gaming apps, nothing beats a real device. And so it's pretty close. When I say pretty close, like in gaming rendering, you get into 3D animation, it's like 80% the rendering power you would have on a real device. So it makes sense to render on a real device when you're getting to real gaming action, I guess. But during development, you can see, make sure stuff's moving, make sure stuff's in the right place. Because everything that you see on a simulator, as far as placement of things, will be on the real device, just as it is on the simulator. And that's the nice thing about simulator. Also, too, on the simulator, if I go back up to hardware and go to device, and then go to iOS 9.3 or whatever yours is, you'll notice I'm not going to do it right now, but I could change to other devices on the fly, and it would literally load that app in that device. Again, it'd have to reload it all over again, just like we're doing now. That's why I'm not going to do it. But you can switch back and forth. And when you're developing, I generally, if it's a universal app like this one, I would technically do iPhone and iPad both, kind of back and forth. And now with the new iPad Pro, the bigger screen, maybe throw that one in there as well, because it's a little bit bigger screen to see what it looks like. Make sense? So kind of make sure everything looks good in all those environments. You can even do lock it like you can on a real phone, where you can lock the device. And then if you go back up here, swipe it like you normally would, and then take it back, just like a real phone would. So it's simulating the environment of a real phone. Now, if I click away from this simulation, I go back to Xcode, I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button, which is right here. I'm hovering on the overhead. Go ahead and hit the stop button. And we're going to start putting some stuff on here now without really, not any code really, but we're going to start playing with it. So first thing we're going to play with is this launch screen. If you double click on the launch screen.storyboard, it'll bring in the middle in just a second that launch screen, like here. And you'll notice on the right side of the screen here, I'll go back to my launch screen. On the right side of the screen, on my object library I had you guys click on earlier, stuff's starting to show up here now that we can bring in. All right, by clicking on this. If you don't see this show up, by the way, make sure your mouse clicks on this one time. One thing I'm going to do before we add anything to this, you see this little line here in the middle, this little outline, we're going to hide it. This little icon right down here, right there, hides that outline. Gives us a little bit more interface playtime. Okay, we're going to bring in a label. So if you scroll down on the right side to find a label, when you find it, just click and drag it into the launch storyboard. And here's what I want you to do. Bring it and hover it, click on it and drag it till you see what I see on the overhead on yours. The little blue lines. What that's doing is rendering this label to be the exact center of the device. That's what it's doing for you. Yeah. Click right there on that first, then click on the circle. Here. There it is. Sure. And I go and hide that right there. Anybody else need help getting the label in? Okay, keep dragging it. Let's get rid of that. Hide this one. Okay, that's in the way. Now, you run over to the left. Anybody else? Yeah, one of the reasons why you want to hide that, by the way, is if you don't hide it, like you didn't hide his, I won't pick on you. Is it won't, you won't get over to the left enough for it to give you all the guides. And all this is basically is a guide. These blue lines are guides here. So what you want to do is, on the upper right corner of your Xcode environment, there's a whole bunch of little icons here. We're now on the file inspector one, which tells the name of the file. Then the quick help one, which is a question mark, which tells you what that is. It's a label. The next one tells us the identity inspector, what class it's tied to. The next one is the fourth one, which says the attributes of this, which right now is where we're going to change the label, the word label underneath text to your first and last name. Let's do your first and last name apostrophe S. Hello world. We'll be fancier. Hello world. So Chuck Conkle's Hello World. And as soon as you do that, hit return. Don't do anything yet to the label yet. And then let's change the size from system 17. I'm going to do system 24. After you do that, then you're going to have to take the sizer boxes here. If you look on the overhead, the sizer boxes, and drag your label out to where it's wide enough for your full name, then recenter it in again. So it'll end up looking like that again. So the little sizer boxes are on the right, middle, and left middle boxes of what you want to use for the sizers. And all that's going to do is drag it out both ways. Make sense? And yeah, go ahead. You get it?
How do you know if you're true middle?
How do you know if you're true middle? Good question. Click on the object and keep dragging it till you see those crosshairs again, Doug. And we'll do one last trick that I'll show you in a second, just to make sure, because this is a universal app and we can move it, we need to do some auto positioning of that object as well. But I'll show you that in just a second. So once we do that, let's go ahead and do a Command S on your keyboard. That's a shortcut to save. And I'll show you another shortcut, Command R, Command letter R. The Command key is the key to the left of your space bar. Command R will render the app and compile it without pushing the play button, which I like shortcut keys, so you might like them also maybe. If not, you'll learn to like them hopefully. It's a little faster, but you'll notice when I pop mine up that mine shoved over to the right a little bit. I don't know if you noticed on yours. I'll do mine again. It's really quick, by the way, the splash screen is. I'll go ahead and play mine again. You can play yours again. When mine popped up, my hello world was cut off a little bit. See mine? Cut off a little bit. I don't know if yours was. So what we can do is go ahead and stop the app from running. And what you want to do is this little circle here, this little yellow circle. Click on it till it's highlighted, meaning like it looks like mine. You know it's selected, and this is called the view controller. It's selected if there's blue, if the blue background. If it looks like this, it's not selected. If it looks like mine, if it looks like this, it is selected. Got it? Once it's selected, go up to the editor menu. Then I want you to go down to the Resolve Auto Layout Issues, and then Reset to Suggested Constraints. Reset to Suggested Constraints. I'll do that again. Click on the view controller to make sure it's selected. Editor menu, Resolve Auto Layout Issues, Reset to Suggested Constraints. Then do a Command S, Command R, and see if it centers it better now on the splash screen. Yes, now it works. I'll do it again just to show you, and you can do yours again just to make sure it's rendering properly in the middle of that screen. There we go, much better. Make sense? So we had you center it manually, then you do the embed or the editor, resolve auto layout issues. You're going to do that every time, by the way, when you're adding objects, just to make sure it renders properly to the orientation of the device and the type of device, whether it be an iPhone, iPad, iPad Pro. This right here that I'm pointing at in the overhead will resolve those layout issues automatically. It'll even render the sizes accordingly, make it bigger, smaller, whatever it needs to do. So everybody get theirs to render properly? Okay, I'll come around and help you then. Make sure that you are clicking on the yellow view icon before you do the rendering. Yeah, just go ahead and click on that and drag it to the right. Click and drag and hold it to the right. What you want to do is click on your name, that label, and see this right box, drag it to the left to shorten it up a little bit. It's a little big. Yeah, perfect. Now, click on the label again. Let's manually center in the middle, like we did before. Keep going. Okay, perfect. Now, let's click on the yellow icon, and then go up to the editor menu. And go down to Resolve, and Reset to Suggested Constraints. Now do a Command R, Command S, Command R. Just do Command R. And if your simulator is running in between runs, like you run it again, it will tell you to stop, and that's normal. So did it show up in the center that time, though? We'll do the stop, then do Command R again. It goes by real quick. It's just a splash. There you go. There's a splash screen. And sometimes a splash screen goes by very quickly. So what we're going to do this now is we're going to go to the main storyboard. Click on the main.storyboard for me. Do the very same thing you did on the launch screen storyboard, but do it on the main storyboard. As soon as you click on the main.storyboard, that's the one where it stays at, by the way, that's white right now. As soon as you get to the main.storyboard, let's go ahead and hide the outline and do the very same thing that we did earlier. Bring a label in, center it, name it, all that good stuff. The very same thing you did with the splash, you're going to do with this one. Except this time it'll stay there and you'll be able to see it. It won't splash away. You know, it won't flash and go away. And changing the system font from 17 to 24 again. And if you want to wait to center it till after you name it, that's fine. Make sure also on this label that when you resize it, make sure the resizing is pretty tight to the words, okay, before you center it in there. Like I don't have much white space to the right and left of my word. It's pretty tight. Once you get it centered in there, again, do editor, resolve auto layout issues, and reset the suggested constraints. And by the way, you don't need to feverishly write down what we're doing because this is being recorded. You can go back and watch this again. So hopefully that will help. And there's my completed one. So the placement should be pretty close to the placement of the splash screen of the rendered main.storyboard. And while you're finishing up, the main.storyboard is the canvas basically for all the app objects. So in this case, we just have a label, but we could have in there a button, a text box, a web browser. So I'll come around and see if you need help here. Right. Go to center manually. Do it. And then go, you need to click on the yellow, remember? The view controller. Then go up to editor and do the auto layout thing again. Perfect. Now do a Command R. So I want to see on everybody's screen is what I have on the overhead, just a rendered, completed, compiled, centered name. Go ahead and do that if you would. I know some of you have already done it. Close it out real quick to see it. Awesome. So guess what? You just successfully created your first hello world in Swift language. Give yourself a hand. Yes, great job. All right. All right. So let's talk a little bit more now about the interface here of Xcode. I've already talked a little bit about, you know now how to start a new project. Single view is the main one that most developers do. One of the things you can do also is add in other objects or other views. If you take your mouse and click anywhere in the white space here, anywhere in the white space that's open, that nothing is there right now, then do a command minus symbol, command minus, it'll make that object or that view a little smaller where you can drag it around here, right? And what developers a lot of times will do is, you know, for multi-page type of apps, will just, you know, have one view in here and say you want to have two views. You can basically click on this one view and do a command C or just a command D. And it'll duplicate it. And it's just that, or go to edit duplicate either one, like I just did. If I click on this one here, I duplicate a lot here, looks like. Did a lot there. So I've got that one. right? I can do a Command D, make sure if I just need to just select it really, make sure I've selected it, and do a Command D. And then what's going to happen after I do a Command D, it's just duplicated that view, basically. And what developers will do, we'll just pretend these have 8 pages in the app. They'll do what you'll learn about called segues, where you can basically put a button here or have a menu item here, to where when you click on a menu item, it goes to this page and then back to the home page. You've seen that before. And the reason I'm just showing you this is, this is where the canvas is of the app for the developer, to where they can basically, and I'll just quickly show you, you don't have to do it. Let me just show you an example of what a full app might look like when it's completed. We'll just say it's like a 6-page app or whatever. A lot of times they'll do this, for instance, whenever they get the title of the app created. So on this one here, we'll pretend that we put in here a title bar that's going to be on all the pages. We put in here also a bottom piece of copyright or links to other websites or information or whatever. So this would be like the template for the rest of the pages. Once you get that template page created, then a developer will do what I just did, which is duplicate that page, and then you're saving yourself time basically. And then you can add in whatever you want to that app to make them connect together. And one of the ways you'll learn is what's called segues, where you basically can segue from one web view or view controller to another view controller. But we're not going to learn that today, but I just wanted to show you that this whole piece, this main storyboard, you can think of as a developer anyway, as a canvas. Does that make sense? That you're canvassing your app, you're laying it out. And even though this one right now, by the way, this one is if you click on the one that's on yours right now and go over here to the tab we were already on, which is the attributes inspector, notice where it says is initial view controller, right? If I go ahead and run this right now as it is, even though I have 5 other view controllers in there, the only view controller that's going to show up on my app right now is the one that I have as the initial one, which is this one right here. The other ones aren't going to show up. Even though they're in my app, in my development platform, they're not going to show up. Does that make sense? And so you can keep developing. A developer can keep these as future pages or future pages, growth places for the app to go that can stay in the app, but the user will never see it until you add them in. Does that make sense? So that's a powerful thing behind the canvas and the main storyboard, is that you can do that. All right, so you successfully created your hello world. So what we're going to do now is, and by the way, before we exit this out, on the right side of your Xcode, if you click on the upper right icon, just keep clicking on it multiple times, you'll notice it'll show and hide that right section, which we just went over, which are the properties, the objects on the bottom. The one to the left of that is the bottom one. This one actually in the middle, bottom, is what developers use for like rendering code behind the scene, what's happening, what you're seeing code do, like values are coming in and stuff. And then the one to the left, the third one over, hides that left one. So a lot of times as developers, when I'm first starting to develop something, I'll just collapse everything but the main storyboard. And then that way I have the entire screen of my Mac to lay out everything I want, where I want it to go, before I've ever really started putting anything on there. Just kind of a visual view of what it's going to look like. Does that make sense? And so that's the nice thing about these, is you can collapse them and get rid of them, is for real estate purposes. So you can collapse them and get rid of them for real estate purposes. All right? So let's go ahead and do this. Do a file or Xcode, quit Xcode. And the simulator will still be running here. Once you get to the quitting Xcode, select the simulator and go to simulator, quit simulator. And then here in this environment, go ahead and submit your name that you've completed it, or submit done, I'm sorry, that you completed it. As soon as you've done that, click Next. And we're going to do a fun in-class, and then we'll take a break. This in-class, what we're getting ready to do is a Swift, getting started with Swift. And the first thing you need to do when you get to the next one is sign up for Replit. This code here should invite you to a page, by the way, to sign up. And go ahead and use, you can use a Gmail, you can use your student email, whatever one you want to use. I would say this, whatever you're going to use this next 4 weeks, use it for everything. So if you're going to use Gmail, just use Gmail for everything, or your, another Gmail account. If you're going to use student email, use your student email for everything. Makes sense? So when you sign up for this one, when you click on the sign up for Replit, it'll bring you to this page here, to where you put in a username you want, the email you're going to use, first name, last name, what password you're going to use, and then sign up. It'll take you right to the CIS290 Replit page. So go ahead and do that. Oh, did you? Okay. Okay, click on modules. And we are now moved to getting started with Swift. And click on number 1 link. There we go. Okay, as soon as you sign in, you're hearing people come into the class. What you're hearing, you're hearing that as you're signing in, you're being added to the class. So let's see here. So far, 2 students have come in. Let's see. No, Nick, Jesus, Zach, Benny, you're in. Yeah, brand new account is what you're creating, Doug. And as soon as you create it, it'll take you to the class page, which should look something like this one here. What up? Yeah, you're just setting up a brand new account. So whatever username you want to use, you're actually creating that account here. So whatever username you want to use. And I would use whatever email you want to use. If you have a Gmail, that's fine. Or you can use your Valley. Yep, that'll work. It should say like CIS290 on the top when you get there, and like a number of assignments, like 2 or 3 of them. It's in there. We'll wait for everybody to get there on your screen, and then we'll go on. So, yep. That's just going to put on that class there. Here we go. You're good. Anybody else needs help? Let me know. Somebody help you? Sign in. Everybody in? Okay. Let me know when you're there. And I like Replit. It's a really cool place for developers to learn and Um, you don't have to be tied to a Mac to use it, and it renders a lot of different code for you. Get in? Yep. All right, cool. All right, so first you want to do is we'll do the hello world, week 1 hello world. And it says here, it should look like this when you click on it. I'll click on the student preview where it mimics what you guys see. So yours should look like this. No due date. We're doing it right now just in class practice. Now on the left side is the code. The right side on Replit is usually the due date and some instructions. You'll notice in the instructions I just have read and follow instructions. We're going to be doing it here in the code here via the comments, which we'll go over in a second what that is. And then below here should say Swift version 3.0.1. That's where everything's going to run. In fact, just go ahead and click the run button for me real quick. It should say, greetings, old man River. Welcome to CIS290 Bootcamp. You are 117 years old this year. All right, which you're not, and your name's not Old Man River. But that's one of the things you're going to be changing. So if you look at line number 1 and 3, number 1 is a comment line, those 2 slashes. What I want you to do is put in there your first and last name on line 1 to the right of the comment line. The comment code, when you want to comment something in Swift, that's what it looks like, those 2 slashes. And the compiler will bypass that when it sees a comment line. It's just for describing what's happening, what's going on in that area. In this case, we're using it for instruction to tell you what to do next. So this is like a hello program we're doing in Swift Playground. Now you'll notice on line number 4, FUNC display, I'm putting everything in a function just because in Replit, if I didn't, you would see everything show up line by line as you typed it in. I didn't want that. So I just put everything in a function. You just need to know that right now. You'll learn more about functions, what they are later. But line 6 is the very first variable. And you'll notice it starts with the word var, welcome. Var is a type variable. And var and let are the 2 types of variables you can create. A var is a variable that can be changed. A let is a variable that's constant and can't be changed. All right. An example, a let variable would be like let tax rate. Tax rates don't change. Or they shouldn't anyway, on a calculator or a register or whatever it might be, or at the store. So, but let's say if you had a program where you had everybody entering in their first name every time they entered the app, yeah, that would need to be a variable because it would need to change every so often as the app's running for different people. So welcome here could technically be a let, but I made it a var just to do it. It doesn't really, and by the way, Xcode will say, by the way, if it sees a variable not change downstream, it'll recommend for that variable to be a let constant instead of a var. Does that make sense? So var welcome to CIS290, bootcamp. You'll notice it's encapsulated in quotes. And what this is doing is it's making welcome a string just because it is a quote, string in quotes. So it's inferring here without declaring it that welcome is now a string. Next one, where it says enter your first name, I put var first name. This one I'm declaring it as a string. All right, but I want you to replace old man with your first and last name. Or I'm sorry, just your first name. Then on line 11, in place of river, your last name. On that one, I had a variable, I called it last name. And again, on variable names, my only rule or help for you is, not really a rule, it'd be a help. Make your variable names meaningful. on what their function is, right? So welcome is a welcome variable, so I'm going to name it welcome. First name, I want a variable for first name, I name it first name, last name, and that's just kind of keep that in your mind when you're creating variable names, that it makes sense. You don't want variable names to be like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You don't want that. That isn't, if I was to give that code to somebody later on down the road, they go, what in the world? I'm having a hard time making heads or tails of these variable names, especially when the apps get larger and larger. So make sure the variable names make sense. Next is enter the year of birth. I put variable there for that. Year of birth integer, int, declares this as an integer. And go and put your year of birth there. And then current year, I declared one called var current year int 2017. It now puts the value 2017 in current year and initializes of that. So far I've got initialized welcome, first name, last name, year of birth, and current year. Next, I'm going to do some math. I'm declaring on line 20 age as a variable name. It's an integer. And I'm going to take current year minus year of birth to determine the age I'm going to be this year. Okay? Not really the age I'm at right now, because my birthday's in August, so I'm not actually 50 right now, but I will be. Then the next thing is concatenating that string together. So concatenating a string is pretty simple. And I'll spread mine out here a little bit to where you can see it, along with yours. And you can spread yours out too if you want to. Just little lines will move over for you if you need to. So var message string equals beginning quote greetings space backslash and in parentheses the name of the variable. What this is going to do is show first name greetings Chuck space Conkle, comma, then the welcome message. You are 50 years old this year. And then it's going to use what's called a print command to display that message. All right, so let's go ahead and run it. The one thing I didn't mention was, well, I did highlight it, but I didn't mention it, is this /n, \n. That just creates a new line in the word or in the sentence. And so you've now created your first, or looked at your first variable, modified it a little bit, just to show you kind of a hello world, and this is what kind of playground looks like in Xcode. So what I want you to do now is, on the right side here, just hit submit. That's all you got to do. And it'll submit to me you completed it. Once you submit to me you've completed it, go back to the CIS290 menu, this one here. Yours looks different than mine because yours this is teacher view. But we're going to go to the Swift Playground one next, the week 1 Swift Playground. And we're going into more explanation on this one than the last one, in more detail on what we're doing and why we're doing it. I find it's better when you're teaching coding to show kind of what things look like finished, and then go back and explain it. And you figure out why it looks like it does and how it functions. So everybody need help getting back to this one? This is on the week 1 Swift Playground. Cool, looks like everybody's getting that. Okay, now this one here, we're going to be a lot more comments we're going to be looking at. It's a function I called function main this time, just to put everything in there so it wouldn't show up line by line. What I mean by that is this. I'll show you. Go ahead and run this one as it stands. It says, my name is Chuck Conkle, my age is 25, my name is Chuck Conkle, my age is 25. All right, so what I want you to do is take where the cursor is blinking right now on line 1 on the left there, put your cursor to the left of the letter F and hit return. We're going to put in there a variable, var, RVC, and I want you to put in here colon string equals, we'll do May 2017 in quotes. So var RVC colon string equals May 2017 in quotes. Then run it again after you've done that. And I'm going to show you why I put everything in a function for this version anyway, for this online version. You notice at the bottom, after you run it, it's not bad. It just, I don't want you to see this yet. We're just declaring line 1, really. But you'll notice what it does here in this platform, this Replit platform. It'll show you RVC, that it's a string, and what you just initialize it as. That's why I put everything in a function, by the way, and the examples here in Replit. That makes sense? So we can get rid of that. Just wanted to show you that. Just get rid of that line, delete it, run it again, make sure it's gone. Okay, so on line 4, the playground comment says playground, noun, a place where people can play. That's a definition of playground if you didn't know. Okay, so we have in here a variable called str, which is really a bad variable name. What could I name it besides variable str? We're just doing it's a hello message. What can we call it besides str? By the way, str is not bad because that says it's a string, so I'm putting that in there. So I know right now, one of the things we're going to talk about now is we need to declare a variable. Remember I talked about meaningful names? Also think about the prefix for that. So if you have, before the variable name, str, whatever, it's a string. If it's an int, whatever, it's an integer. If it's a double, dbl, whatever, it's a double. Make sense? So for this variable name, what can we put in there past the str? And again, it's just a greeting, so what can we put in there? What's a good name for a greeting? Anybody? You don't have to be too creative. Any name will work. And it is a greeting, so make sure it's fitting to the greeting. Anybody?
Hi.
Hi, there you go. str hi. Thank you, Doug. So str hi, that'll work. And I'm going to leave it just like that. Now, I want you to correct lines 11 through 13, or it's actually 12 and 13, where it says your full name, put your full name there. And today's date is what, the 13th, right? Yeah, May 13th. So put May 13th on line 13 in place of today's date. All right. And CIS290 is fine. And remember, we changed that variable name. Keep that in your head. str hi is what we named it. So we're going to go over some notes now that you've done. You've changed your comment. By the way, we just had you do here on 12, 13, and 14, on most every page of code you'll see in Xcode, a default name it puts up at the top. And if you're signed into that Mac as a user, which I have everybody signed in CIS290, it'll put your name in there for you. But since we signed in CIS290, you guys are going to have to replace it with your real name. So, but almost every page, or every page on a Swift page in Xcode will have a comment, and that's why I have you do this, just so you know when you created it. A lot of times you'll put what the function is of that page, but for sure name and date, definitely. So let's go over first on line 18, some comments. The word comments. To do a single line comment, we've already went over that. That's the 2 slashes. That's a single line comment. If you wanted to do a multi-line comment, which does not work well here in Replit, this is what it looks like, a multi-line. You put a / asterisk, asterisk, or, and then again. So the comment would be in here. Multi-line comment could be in here, so I could put multiple comment lines, which I'm just, so that way you don't have to technically you don't have to put a single line comment on every one of them that way. All right. I'm gonna get rid of that. So that's a multi-line comment. And if you have a long lines of comments, like 4 or 5 lines, you want to definitely do the multi-line. Variables, that's popular in Swift: string, double, float, bool, and int. String is a string, double is a double, which you have a floating point, decimal point. Float, same deal. You do more decimal points on that one. Bool would be true or false, and integer a whole number. These are the common 5 variables in Swift and most programming languages. Variables cannot start with a number, so it can't be number 1, number 2, whatever. Okay, cannot start with a number. It won't allow you to do it. It'll give you an error if you try. When declaring variables, use a var prefix like the variable type, like we talked about, like str, dbl, fl, bl, int, in front of that name, just so you'll know what type it is later down the road. It will help you. And then equal sign, and the right of the equal sign is the initial value of that variable. If it's a string, it'll be in quotes. If it's a number, it will be outside of quotes. If it's a decimal, it'll be just a decimal. But make sure you put it to the right of the equal sign. And what this is you're initializing that variable. So let's talk about types of initializations. So first is implicit type of initializing. Like on line 36, var str full name equals Chuck Conkle. It implies that str full name is a string, right? If it was str, let's say it was str, which we would do this way, equals 17, str full name would be what then? If it was 17. What would be implied? An integer, right? Integer value. So if it's 17.25, double. Okay. Next, explicitly, and this is what I recommend, is explicit type declaring, and Apple does as well, is var str years old int equals 25. There have been times that rules broke, though, in some apps I've created, where it could be an array I have, and I wanted to put in a variable, and the array could be multiple value types. The array could be, in that array could be, and by the way, an array, for those of you who don't know, is a value in code that can have multiple different types of values. So an array starts with 0 and can go to whatever number. So I could have a string in an array. I could have an integer in an array. I could have a double in an array. I could have a float in an array. So in those types of logic, I might want to, instead of explicitly declaring a variable type, I might want it to be implicit, just so it doesn't blow up down below that if I'm saving a database or if I'm doing something with it later. Does that make sense? And so there are places to where you would want to use implicit, but a general rule is if you can make it an explicit, make it an explicit. And 9 times out of 10 you can, unless of the case I just mentioned, which is array type. So an example of a constant variable is this right here. So I want you to place this number with your real age right now. Not 50 yet, 49, so mine's 49. So then I want you to uncomment the below line 48. So get that comment out of there and then run this app. Hit the run button. And it should blow up on us on that line. It's taking forever to stop. Did your guys errors out? Did your guys error out? Okay, good. I'll go ahead and do mine again. I won't go into student view, so I have no problem with that. Okay. Some of this stuff out. Let's see here. Put it in here. There you go. So it says here, error, replit Swift 1.1, use of unresolved identifier main. That's not the one we'll look at. Above that, though, should be the int age equals 35. Cannot assign a value to that. Is a let constant, it says. So that means it's a let constant. It says change let to var to make it mutable. So it gives you a suggestion. And by the way, Xcode will do the same thing. Swift will do the same thing. It'll give you a kind of a suggestion thing. So put a comment back in there so we can run it later. So an example of a variable that can be changed would be var at my age. Again, I'll put in my real age. I'll have you guys put yours in, and then type in maybe 10 years younger than what you are right now. We'll do that. Put in 39, and let's go ahead and run it. Let's see if we get any errors on that. We shouldn't. So let's do this. Underneath line 55, we're going to use the print command, print, and then in parentheses, you're going to put in int my age, just like it's typed above, and then run it again. And it should now print out that number, whatever it might be. Mine was 39 that it was changed to after the 49. It should print out for you as well. And print basically in Swift is what it sounds like. It just prints the output to the screen to view. All right. And for development purposes, when you're debugging your code and you're going through and testing, we use print a lot as developers to see what's happening as stuff's being compiled. Okay. So we use that quite a bit. So we can keep that in there. It's not going to hurt to keep it in there. Keep going. Showing variables, formatting a string. We went over this on our Hello World. Here's a syntax. If you want to show a variable inside of a string, which is called concatenating that string, it's that format. Backslash and in parentheses, the name of the variable. Only rule on that is it has to be the exact same name and syntax. Okay? Everything's got to be the same. So if it's uppercase, use uppercase, lowercase, lowercase. Otherwise, it won't work. So an example of a string put together, concatenating, is on line 64. Var str my age equals my age is str full name, and my name is str full name, and my age is str years old. Making a new line using print. So if you want to, instead of using the /n, sometimes you want to use a print command multiple times just to see what things are doing throughout your code. And all you need to do then is just do the print command multiple times. And it'll just separate it like it is here on mine, where it says my name is Chuck Conkle and my age is 25. That's done on line 70 and 71. Make sense? Now, spacing is important here. One of the things when you first start doing this, if I get rid of the space between is, and the variable name and run this, and you can do the same, it'll just shrink it down. It will, aesthetically won't look right. So whatever space you put in there will stay there. And that's just something to keep in mind when you're coding. So printing lines without a new line, just start there. And again, like we learned earlier, we could put in here a /n and run it. And it's going to put the new line in there for us without the two prints, if it's in the same. So on line 75, I put a /n before the word end, and then ran it, and it shoved it down, just like two prints did. The /n will do it for me without two prints. Does that make sense? It's a new line function. Looks like hitting the enter key on your keyboard, basically. Okay, in-class exercise. I'm going to let you do the rest. I'll go walk around to help you. So you're going to declare a string variable for your favorite food, favorite color, favorite number, concatenate the three variables, and show them in the print format with what we talked about, how to show a variable inside of a string. Example would be my favorite food is ribeye steak, my favorite color is green, and my favorite number is 7. Ribeye steak actually sounds pretty good today. All right. So I'm going to walk around and help you as needed. Remember, on the variable names, can't start with a number. Make sure it's meaningful. And you can put the prefix before each one and declare it explicitly instead of implicitly. Okay. Explicitly instead of implicitly. See if you can remember how to do that. If you need help, you can always browse up higher in this screen to see how we did that, what the implicit and explicit is. Try to declare it explicitly as much as possible. Give you a few moments to do that. Just take your time. Anybody need any help? What are we doing? Some of you are finishing up, so I'm going to show you an example. And as soon as we're done submitting this one, once you finish completing it, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we're going to come back and finish up the sprite game. You guys will create a profile face of yourself, and then we'll play a little game until pizza gets here and have fun with that. So let me show you an example here of what you could have. So I have on mine here for the favorite food, I put var str fav food equals ribeye steak. For favorite color, I did var str fav color equals green. For favorite number, var int fav number equals 7. And then I printed them using the /n for the new line. My favorite food is str fav food. My favorite color is str fav color. New line. My favorite number is int fav number. And then here was the output of that. My favorite food is ribeye steak. Favorite color is green. Favorite number is 7. Right? Once you get through with that, you can submit it. Take 10. And again, restrooms, you know where they're at downstairs. If you want water, hot break, whatever, down in the basement, that side. They used to have coffee. You don't have coffee there anymore. So, but come back here, and I've got 10:05, so 10:15. We'll start back. Sound good? All right. So stretch your legs a little bit. Great job. Yeah, definitely.
So, I get this. You're saying
Yes. Yeah.
so what makes this specific?
Yeah, that's explicit. Like that should be. Yeah, that's explicit declaration on integer. Like on mine, when I did mine implicit instead of explicit. So let me show you here what it would be like. Let me bring mine up to show you. So I'll start with my str food. I'll just do a colon after food, and then just do string. And now it's explicit, which it should be. Explicit on that one, explicit on that one, and int here because it's an integer. So anytime you can make it explicit, definitely do it because it's going to make the compiler a little faster. Does that make sense? So on yours, all you got to do is to write an str food, yeah, colon string. Here's a string, and then int, you already got that, so you just have to do 2 strings.
Question.
Yep.
On yours,
Mhm.
I see you have integer, favorite number, and then.
Yeah, quotes should not be. This should be, I did that because it's a 7. I did that because I made it a string, but you're right. Boom, like that.
If you put str favorite number colon integer, is that also correct? Because you're beginning one with int and the other one.
Well, it's just it's not going to air out anything. It's just not a good thing to do. So if it's an integer, you want it to be an integer.
So over here, started with.
Yep. STRs, yeah, that should be INT.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, correct. Yep. So instead of the STR favorite number, INT would work. And then after you put your strings in, you can run it. And that should do it. Just
Oh, maybe.
make sure it's all named right. Yeah, that'll do it. Perfect. Awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Make sure your S on string is caps. String. And then here, make sure string is INT, it's a string. And caps I. Word string altogether, just put caps I, lowercase nt. Since it's an integer, right? Right, that's an integer. So you got string, integer. And put on it just to see, make sure it appears. Cool. So now you just have to do your print. You just have to do your print now. So underneath this line, hit enter, and then just use the variable print. I'll blow mine up there, Doug. You can see them easier. I'll blow my whole line up to show you how I did my concatenate together. You see that? Okay.
I just thought on the print. That's interesting.
Yeah, and you can do, you don't have to do yours like mine, by the way. I just did mine all one line. You could do 3 separate prints. You could do a print, my favorite food is, and then print my favorite color is, print my favorite number is. You do 3 separate prints if you wanted to. I just put mine all in one. If you put it all in one, you have to do the /n for new line. If you don't want to do that, you just do 3 separate prints. It'll put it all on 3 separate lines. Yep. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, so str for string piece looks good. Okay, no space after your colon, no space. Do that on all 3 of them. Okay, good. Now it's running. STR. Should be int favor. Should be int. INT. Yes, good job. Yeah, syntax fits against rule. That's not.
Make it print what I want to print. I have to bring down this whole string up here.
All you need to do is my favorite color is, and then put a space after is.
My favorite isn't.
Yeah, you just need to put after is. Put your cursor right after S, hit space, and backslash. And then in parentheses, you're going to put in STR, my favorite food. No, you're fine. You can just set it like that. Now get rid of the left parentheses. Now I'll try it. That's perfect, just like that. So go ahead and run this, make sure this fish. Good. You can just copy that, Doug. What I generally do, I'll copy that whole line and then just rename what you need to rename. Yeah, just right underneath that. After you copy it, just paste it. Yeah, so instead of my favorite food, it'll be what my favorite color. And replace, yep, STR, my favorite color. So that's food, color of food, looks like. Just make sure your syntax is good. Cap C on that. Cap C on color. Yeah, you got it. Wait till you get an extra one there. That's my favorite number. Syntax. Make sure you put in, I think it's a caps in. Caps in, my favorite number. Perfect. There you go. Awesome. Friend of my favorite number 13 too. Everything's 13. Make sure after you guys submitted your replit, go back to that week 1 getting started and just submit done. I know you finished it. And then you can hit next after you've hit done. After you've submitted done. And we're going to do the fun creating a player of yourself. So here's my lovely person here, my little icon I made, which is very crude, but it's a headshot, stick figure. So I know some of you aren't familiar with Macs, but they have a thing called Photo Booth on Mac that makes it really easy to take a self photo on the Macintosh. And so if you go to the Finder icon on the lower left of the Mac, I'm hovering on the overhead right now. Click on Finder, and then go to Applications, and scroll down till you find Photo Booth. And you do some really funny looking pictures, by the way, on Photo Booth. We're just going to do a normal photo. So, but they have a lot of different ones you can do on Photo Booth. I'll show you. Bring it in here. If I go into different effects, I have a whole bunch of, there we go, chipmunk. Okay. My grandson and I have fun doing these. Here's one. How about the frog? There you go. Oh, that looks real good. All right, but we can do normal. Go back to the normal. All right. But what you want to do is get a side shot, kind of like that, kind of a side shot. So you'll kind of have to like fake it out, kind of get a side shot. And once you get a side shot, see what it looks like. Oh, give it a 3, 2, 1. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect. That one there's okay. So ended up doing a side shot, and I end up liking maybe that one there. So just kind of get a side shot. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to play with it. This is not going on the interweb and the World Wide Web, Facebook, social media. And so we're just going to have fun with it. So just take a side shot like I just did. The photo booth, I'll kind of come around and help you. You need it? We'll do a countdown of 3, and I think take 4 succession shots. Just make sure your face is halfway sideways like mine. If it's not, you can do it over again. And then once you do it, you can click on that, and then it'll give you 4 pictures. When you click on this, it'll give you 4 pictures, and then you just select out of the 4 which one you like the best, and leave that on your screen, and then we'll do the next step together. When I see this on everybody's screen, I know you've got your profile if you want. Perfect. And it can be left or right. It doesn't matter. We can switch that. Doesn't matter on left or right profile. Good, good. Give you another moment there to do that, and then I'll show you how to export this. We're going to use a program called Pixlr, an online kind of Photoshop app, to do the stick figure thing, and I'll have you save it and send it to me, and we'll see what it looks like in the actual Swift game that we put together. Which, by the way, everything in the Swift game, sound is all my own voice with the background music of the game and the pew 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 shooting of the ammo. So yeah, definitely would not make the App Store. So it'd be kind of funny though. I guess it would be a funny app. All right, who's still working on getting your profile? Give you another moment or two there. Just kind of look at me when you're ready, and we'll do it together. That'd be awesome. Okay, so here's my profile that I've chosen. And what I'm going to do is, once now I've chosen, I'm going to go up to, in the menu of file, a photo booth, go to the File menu, and then go to Export. And I think by default, it's going to put it in your pictures. Since we're saving everything already in Documents, let's move it to Documents. So just hit the Where drop down and select Documents. And the Save As, just put me, the letter M-E, letters M-E. So again, I changed the Where to Documents. I changed the name to me, and then just click Save. And then we can exit out of Photo Booth. Click on Photo Booth, quit Photo Booth. And if you're still not in Finder, you can click on Finder again, which is the easiest way to find stuff in a Mac, the Finder icon, and go to Documents, and then double click on that me image that you just saved, just to make sure that's the right one. All right, so we just want to make sure it's the right one before we're going any further. So everybody have the right one saved? All right, cool. So now what we're going to do is go to, in your Chrome web browser, if you don't have Chrome open, let's open up Chrome if you didn't use Chrome for Eagle. We'll create a new tab, and we're going to type in pixlr.com. Also in the instruction, go right on board. pixlr.com. Pixlr. It's an online type Photoshop. And what you'll do once you click on pixlr.com, there's a little icon right here where my mouse is hovering over on the overhead. You'll click on that 2 down arrow icon, and it has 2 options, Pixlr Editor and Pixlr Express. I would recommend playing with Pixlr Express when you get home. It does a lot of cool effects and takes red eye out easy. The one I generally go to, though, a lot is Pixlr Editor. Any of you familiar with Photoshop, maybe Pixlr has layering formats where you can do layering, just like in Photoshop. You can also import native Photoshop files in Pixlr. So if you click Launch Web App, before I go any further, I'm going to go to my notes to make sure we're going to do it right here. So we're going to create a new image, name it Shooter. It's going to be 108 by 160 and transparent. So if we click on Create New Image, and on the width, 180 and height 160. Let's make sure that's right. Width 108, height 160. Width 108, height 160. Transparent, make sure and check it. And for the name, we're going to name it Shooter. So name Shooter, width 108, height 160, check transparent, then click OK. And I'll keep that on the overhead there until everybody gets that. So Shooter on the name, we did a new image, Shooter for the name, width 108, height 160, check transparent, click OK. Once you do that, it should look like this, just a blank canvas. We got that? Need to go back or anything on any of this? Okay, on the create new image?
Yeah.
Okay. So create new image, and then name Shooter, and width 108, height 160. I just type them in manually. And 108 width, 160 height, and then check transparent. And once you have all of that, you can click OK. All right, then we're going to go to the File menu in Pixlr on the upper left corner. Make sure you're in Pixlr, not in Chrome. File menu, open image, and we're going to browse out to your Documents folder and double-click on that Me image, M-E image. And it's going to open it up in Pixlr, just like this. Okay. And what we're going to do, basically, is we're going to crop out everything but our head. Then we're going to resize it, flip it if we have to, and then bring it over into the new layout and draw a stick figure using a size 10 pencil. So I will do that step by step here. So first thing is to get a rendering of because we basically just want just our face only, not our shirt or anything. So the easiest way to do that is over in the tools on the left side of Pixlr, where my mouse is hovering. We want to select this icon here, which is the lasso tool. It's this icon right here. It's the second tool down on the right column, called lasso tool. And we want to select up here this icon here, which is to the left of feather, and it's called the polygonal lasso tool. The polygonal lasso tool. The polygonal lasso tool, if those of you not familiar with Photoshop, is a lasso tool that allows you to select an image or whatever object click by click as you go around. So I'll show you how to do it, then you can do it if you've not done that before. If you've done Photoshop before, you can go ahead and select it, but if you haven't, you just watch me do mine, and then you can do yours. So I've got polygonal lasso tool selected after I selected my lasso tool. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start on the upper left corner of this. I'm going to go around like this. I'm going to do one click at a time. I'm going to click here, keep clicking. Does not have to be perfect, by the way. And as I click, it's bringing tracing my face. And I'm just clicking. Make sure just don't double click, because if you double click, you'll have to start all over again. So keep clicking one click at a time, ever so slightly as you go around your object, your head, till you get right back to the very beginning. Once you get back to the very beginning, it'll do this. It'll become a marquee kind of silhouette around your face. You know you've done it correctly when you get that. I'm going to leave mine just like that while you're doing yours. Once you get yours like that, we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it into the new Shooter platform in just a second. I'll make sure everybody gets that first. Okay, all you need to do is go up to Image or Edit, and we want to go to Deselect All. and just double click anywhere down on your screen. And you can start over. Double click again. There you go. And just one click at a time all around. And you'll end up where you started at. Once you end up where you started at, you'll get the silhouette like mine on the overhead. And just kind of hang tight there if you wouldn't mind. We'll do that together. We'll copy and move together. And it does not have to be a perfect selection of your face. We're just doing it for fun, but I'm not going to be graded on perfection here, especially for most. It's your first time doing this, maybe, for some of you. But I do recommend Pixlr for any photo editing that you might have for your home use or recreational photos that you take. It's not really nice to edit photos easily. Kind of look at me when you get it all. When you have the marquee around your face, like mine, just kind of look at me and we'll do it together. No big hurry. Yeah, it should look like that. And it's kind of finicky at the very end. You have to make sure to stop where you started. Click exactly where you started. And if you can't figure out where you started, you can actually just double click anywhere and there you go, perfect. All right, cool, good there. Everybody else good? All right, now let's do a Command C on your keyboard. Command C will copy what we've just selected. Command C. Then go to the new layout, the shooter layout. Just click on it with your mouse like I am on the overhead. And do a Command V. It's going to be quite large. We're going to have to shrink it down here. I just have the corner of my head, it looks like there, which probably what you'll have on yours. Once you do a Command V on the shooter, go to the Edit menu and go to Free Transform. And then what you'll do is hit the Shift key and hold it and click any of the corners and drag it in. So I'm going to click the upper right corner. Hit the Shift key, click the upper right corner and drag it down and in, kind of like this on the overhead. You can see how I'm doing it. But you make sure you hit the Shift key before you drag a corner, before you click and drag a corner. And then I'm going to bring mine down to about right there. It'll be off the grid, but I'm going to release it, release the Shift key. Then I can click anywhere in this area here and drag it in. And I'm going to shrink it some more until, hit the Shift key and shrink it some more. Till make sure yours looks roughly about like mine, size-wise. Your head's about like that. And if it's morphed a little bit, it's okay. We're just doing it for fun. So if you forgot to hit the Shift key, you're just going to make your face skinnier or fat or want to, or longer. Yeah, just click and drag, perfect. And then make it a little bit smaller. So hit the Shift key first. And you can go ahead and click that little arrow key. Here, above that. Go ahead and hit OK. Yes. Yep. Then go up to Edit, deselect all, and hit that arrow key again. There we go. Now let's go to Edit, Free Transform again. Let's do a Shift to make it a little bit about like mine does. About my dimension there, roughly. Cool. All right, so once you do that, and you get it to roughly my dimension, hit the Enter key on your keyboard or the Return key to accept it. Then we're going to go down. And by the way, has everybody got that? Very good? Okay, I'll come around and help you. Okay, go to Edit menu, Free Transform. Okay, Shift key, and hold it, and then grab any corner and go in. Perfect. Now let go of the Shift key. Drag it in. A little up higher. Perfect. Right there. Hit Enter. Anybody else need help? Okay. So what we're going to do now is on the left side here on our tools, we're going to find the line control, the line object for us. Let's see here, not the brush, not the pencil. There we go, I'll find it. Drawing now. I'll buy it 5 times already. Oh, drawing tool. They changed it for me. They changed it on me. So hit the drawing tool, which is looks like the 6th one down on the right column. Drawing tool, and up at the top, we'll select line tool. Select the line tool at the top and change the size from 1 to 10. You'll have to manually type in 10. Then hit enter. So again, I selected this icon here, which is the drawing tool. Then line tool, which is to the left of opacity. And then I changed the size from 1 to 10 right here. And then what we're going to do then is we're going to just basically draw an ugly stick figure, just like this, nothing real fancy. So I will show you how I do mine. So I'm going to do just a, let's see, let me make sure, get it right here. All right, so I just want to, oh, you know what? On mine, I want to flip it. If your head looks like mine, if yours face to the left like mine, you want to flip it. Is anybody's like that? Okay, so let's flip it. If you're the other way, you're good. So go up to edit menu, or we want to go layer menu, I'm sorry. I got this right in the first place. Image menu. Image menu, flip canvas horizontally. There we go. Image menu, flip canvas horizontally. That should do it. Then we're ready to draw the line. And here's what we're going to do. We'll draw a line. I want to make sure it's roughly like the one I have here. And again, does not have to be perfect. Just something like this, just a little like that. Perfect, there you go. That's it. It's kind of like a letter K almost. You're drawing underneath it. Come around and see how you're doing. When you're drawing it, by the way, it'll be like a grayscale. And then you let go, it should be black. Good, good, looks good. You know, one of the most popular iOS games is actually Stick of Death, which is just stick figure guys fighting each other. You guys ever played that before? Okay, pretty popular game actually. Anyway, they don't look much better than this really. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save that. Let's see. We need to save it twice. Yeah, save it twice. Once we're going to save it as your last name, lowercase, the @ symbol 2 times, your last name, lowercase, the @ symbol 2, and then the times symbol, and then last name, PNG. So I'll show you how to do that. So make sure you're on the shooter one still, and then go to the File menu, Save, select Format, PNG, and in place of the name shooter, you're going to put your last name, the @ symbol, 2 times. Or just do 2 times. Well, I put the @ symbol in later. It's not going to let us do the @ symbol in there. So your last name 2 times, last name 2 times, and then hit OK. And we'll save it in the documents. That's fine. We'll save it one more time. Again, PNG file, format, and this time just your last name only. All right. Everybody got that? Okay, before you close out a pixeler, click on your Finder just to make sure those images are in your Documents folder. And look at me when you get that done. Make sure at least, really, I'm just going to collect one from you, really. That's all I'm going to need to collect from you. All right, cool. All right, so what we're going to do now is, if everybody could go on your Mac, make sure to do this with me. On the upper left right corner of your Mac, there's a wireless icon. We're going to make sure it's turned on. You know it's turned on if it says turn Wi-Fi off. If it doesn't say turn Wi-Fi off, make sure to select Wi-Fi on. All right, make sure you've done that. Then you're going to go to the Go menu. The Go menu, and go down to AirDrop. And at the very bottom, where it says allow me to be discovered by no one, say everyone. Click on the drop down and say everyone. And I will give you guys my PC number where you can literally drop that. I just need you to drop your last name.png on my computer name after I give it to you here. Do what? The Go menu? You got it? Okay. So go and then, yep. And then make sure to turn it on for everybody. So let's see, my PC name is should be PC something here. PC22757. PC22757. Yes, remember that. PC22757. Drop your image right on top of my in AirDrop, and it'll say like this: PC22758 wants to share. Yes, accept it. Drop them down in my drop down box, and then once I get everybody's, I will be able to add it into the app. Yep. Just your last name only. Yeah, the last name.png is fine. That'll work. And you can see it happening as it's coming in. And maybe some of you have Macs at home. You didn't know it could do this. I use this all the time. It's easy to select. And you can do this if you're on the same network at least. In fact, what's cool about it is you just have to both have the Wi-Fi turned on. You don't have to be selected any Wi-Fi network. You just have to have more Wi-Fi turned on. And it recognizes other iOS devices around. Because it even works with your iPhone and iPad as well. All right. Everybody need help doing that? Yeah. I'll help you. Anybody send yours to me already? Did you already send yours? Do me a favor and drive mine up here. If somebody else sends yours, you hit accept. Thank you. Your image? Oh, just hit Finder. Finder, and then what you can do is come up to the Finder menu, go to File, New Finder window, and there you go. Then just grab the one. There you go. You just accept it. Anybody else need help? Click here. Okay. Control command A, command C. Command C. You go down here, and then command V, and then Small. Edit, retransform, shift, drag the corner. I'll drag this one so it's just closer. Bring it up, bring it back into the view, hit on shift. That's in here. There you go. Got it perfect. There you go. Make it center a little bit, then hit enter. And then ready to hit the drawing tool. That's one over that. Then click line tool, number 10. Enter. And then draw the letter K letter. Pop down. Yeah. Oh, yeah, change the black. There you go. Legs, and one arm coming out. Perfect. And just save that for right now. You just save it once. Just do file, your last name, PNG, save it to documents, and then dump it over on mine. So what is it? 22 757? Is it 754 or 757?
757.
757, okay. So drag it over on top of 757 one, answer 757. You'll need to create a new Finder window. So click here. Go File, New Finder. And then drag it over. One answer 757. Yep, it's just accept. All right, anybody else need help? All right, cool. Thank you for doing that for me. All right, really good. All right, now we get to have fun. You get to watch for just a second. I'm going to switch computers here after I transfer files to my other Mac. So let's see here. So there's all the files. And I'm going to compress these. All right, I'll switch over so you guys can see this. All right, so I'm switching on my other Mac here so you can see this. Here's the pictures I just brought in. And I'm going to rename them a little bit here. What I've got is, I'll show you what the game looks like now. So basically, the background music and the shooting is all my voice. And I've got it set to hard level right now, which means I can't miss one enemy right now. But we will change that later on. All right, so cool. So anyway, I'm going to replace. You'll see here the image. I've got two images here. The code on a game kit. Basically, when you create a game kit, it creates what's called a game scene, which this one here on the game scene is blank. There's nothing on the game scene right now. There's no content. It's all done in code. And let me bring up the main storyboard. So it's just totally blank. When you create a brand new game kit, sprite kit, we'll do that in just a second. It just takes a little bit. It already has all the animation in there for you. And so I took all that out and then added in some animation of my own. And so one of the things where the code is, what we're playing with right now, is this game scene Swift file here. One of the sound, or the sound for the sound you hear is the pew 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 sound, and then the projectile is the images coming in randomly. The monsters is what they're called. But here at the top here, and here's the background music. By the way, I created all the background music and everything in open source Audacity audio creation. So here's the image name, Conkle, which it's using the reason I had you do your last name only is because I know that's what I used on mine, which is my last name only for that one. So all I'm going to do is just real quickly add in all of your images, making sure just, I'm going to get rid of any 2 times on these. We can literally play with these all one by one. So we'll just go down the line. So let's see, we'll just start at the top. All right, so we'll just start with that one. Too small, too big. That's all right. Let's see what the size is on that. I'll do Doug's right now. We'll come back to yours to resize it. Might have to put the 2 times in there maybe. Yeah. File. 108, 108, 160, 108, 160. Let's do this. Take that out. Okay, and I'm going to clean it. That's what it is. I have to put it 2 times in there. I forgot. Doug, you're in a video game.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, we'll do a couple more here. And remember, before you leave, if you have an iOS device, I will give you this on your device, which I know you'll love to play when you get home. All right. Kramer, we'll do this next.
So you have that at times 2.
Yeah, times 2. And the reason for that is it uses both images to render, one to load initially, and the others for the shooting. If there's only one in there, it doesn't render correctly. So it has to have both in there, and I totally forgot about that. A lot of times the other image is smaller than the other one, which you don't have to have it that way, but a lot of times it is. Or it'll have like multiple images doing different scenes, different sprite scenes. That's why I had the instructions to put it that way, but Pixlr won't let you name it that way. You can once you download it. Okay, so we'll do this one next. And also talk about while I'm doing it is cleaning a project. Anytime you change images, which I didn't do the first few times either, is when you clean a project, it just cleans all executables and any compiled code out and then recompiles everything again. What I mean by executable, if you look on the overhead, this file right here, this APP file I just highlighted, that's the executable for iOS. Whereas like in Windows, you have a .exe. In iOS, it's .app. All right. So whose is this? Just yours? Who's this? Yours? Okay. So I don't think yours, we might not reach. I don't think we have the alpha channel on yours. Yours was white background, I think is what it was. Yeah. Yours was white background, I think is probably why. I think the size is okay. It's just you have to have alpha. It has to have alpha, that white clear background, but that's probably why yours isn't working. So let's go to the next one. Yeah, it has to be transparent background, PNG transparent, and alpha, meaning it's clear, can be morphed. All right, then we got work name. And I will compile all these separately too, by the way, to where if you want to do side loading, I'll give a link on our website, on our home site, to where you can just click a link and install it. You do have to give me a UDID for your phone, but it doesn't take that long. In fact, who has iOS in here? iOS, anything, even iPad will work. All right, cool. So do this for me while I'm rendering all these. Those of you that do have, you can do this right now while you're waiting, so I can render these and give you a link to everybody's app on my website. And by the way, I'm going to be bringing 4 or 5 loaner iPads next week. So who was it that does not have an iOS device? Raise your hand if you do not have an iOS device. So just 2 of you? All right, cool. Well, you'll get loaners next week. We can take them home later. So it's udid.io. udid.io. Go to that website from your iOS device and go through the steps of allowing it to find the UDID of your device, which I'll need to do the side loading. Just go through the steps. It'll ask you to install a little file to do that. Apple needs that. So while we're playing with these last ones here, you can do that. Okay, this is Mings. Cool. Worked. Meyer. One, 2, 3 more left. Let's see what that one looks like. Meyer. 160 times Meyer.
Is that UDIO a long string?
Do what now? I think I have 2 PNGs in there too. I just noticed it. I have 2 times PNG.png. That'll make a difference. Okay. Let's try that. Yeah, no, see you. Thanks. No. Let's play with that one. What I didn't do, I didn't clean it, did I? Times 2. Yeah. That's good. That's what I did, clean it. All right, cool. Make sure I go over all these. Nelson. We'll do this one last one here, and then we'll go on to we'll create your very first game using Sprite Kit. For pizza doesn't get here till 11:30, so we're good. You guys look much better than mine for some reason. I don't know what it is. Much better. And why not? We'll do one. We got 2 left, so hey, might as well let you see everybody, right? Okay, clean it. Oh, 2 PNGs. I think I had the lights on really low or something. Let me turn photos in. Oh, cap. Don't like the caps. This one. Okay. One six. 106. Alpha. Good. There we go. All right, now I'm happy. All right, cool. All right, so now we're going to create our own sprite game. I will create each one of these individually, by the way. Do the UDID thing, send it to me. When I ask to send an email, if you didn't already put in my email address, do that, c.conkle@rockvalleycollege.edu, or it could be cconkle@gmail.com. Either one will work. Whichever one you send it to is fine. Or if you send it to your own email, just make sure and forward me that UDID, because I need that whole thing in order for this to work, side loading. And I can do this post session today and send you guys a link when it's done so you can download it and put it on your phone.
Is it a massive amount of text?
Do what now?
Is it a massive amount of text?
Yeah, go to the website udid.io. Yep, then tap to find the UDID. Let's see. No. Oh, I don't know. You're on using Google browser. You want to use, you have like Chrome or Safari? Get Safari. That's right. Let's do Safari. Safari's going to be better. Let's try Safari. There we go. Then just hit install, follow all the prompts. Then you can shoot it to my email on board, cconkle@gmail.com. Will come right to me. And those devices, by the way, that you guys will borrow next week, we'll have I already have the UDID for those, so we're good to go. So any apps we can create, we can test it immediately after session. All right, so here's what we're going to do. How many still doing the UDID, by the way? Doug, you're doing yours. Anybody else? So I'll give you a moment there. Shouldn't take that long, hopefully, once you get going there. So Sprite Kit basically allows us to create a really easy game quickly out of the box. There's definitely coding involved, but it has a lot of the needed stuff for gaming, like buoyancy, collision, gravity. Those are all built into objects by default in Sprite Kit right out of the box. And so we're going to do this little demo, this little Hello Sprite Kit app is show you some of those things. So are we ready, Doug? Or are you still doing it? Almost done? Okay.
It's asking me to sign up for
Do what now?
install.
Yep. Yep. Right. And then install it. And then put in your passcode. And then install. And scroll down. Yeah, we'll do it. Okay. There we go. So what we're gonna do is switch over to my other Mac. So in Xcode, fire up Xcode again. And go to File menu, New Project. And this time we're going to select Game. So File menu, New Project, Game. And then Next. And then for the project name, just put Demo Game. Demo Game, all one word, caps D and G. And in place of Scene Kit, you're going to select Sprite Kit. Make sure the language is Swift. We'll go with Universal's fine on the device type. So Demo Game, Swift language, Sprite Kit, Game Technology, and Next. We'll save it the same place we did last time, which was Documents, right? Documents. And click Create. As soon as you click Create, do a Command R to run it. See what it looks like right out of the box without doing anything. And then we'll tweak it some here. We'll talk about the different files that were used to create it. While that's compiling, I'm going to go prop the door open for the pizza guy just in case he gets here early. Still compiling. Now, if you click on the gray part, you'll see some animation. You should see some animation. know you guys are waiting on me. Okay, mine's taking forever, so I'm going to do this. Go to main.storyboard. And should be a black scene. And if you go to the game view controller.swift area, it'll have in there, and the view did load, it'll have in there if let scene equals game scene file name game scene. It'll bring in an aspect scene. Then if you go to the game scene.swift file, here's where we're going to start taking some stuff out. The did move to view. The let my label equals sk label. That code all the way down to self.add child my label. We're going to get rid of that code. So we should still have the left and right bracket in there, but the code I got rid of, which was from the word let to the self.add child my label, that code. Then the next thing we need to get rid of is this for touch and touches. We're going to get rid of the let sprite equals down to self.add child. And get rid, I guess, the let location equals to. We don't need that. Yeah, get rid of that too. So yours should look like mine when it's done. Pretty much got rid of most all code in that page. All right, then go to the game scene.sks. And there should be a color sprite here. Right here, it says color sprite, create a simple sprite with color. Click and drag it in the middle, like so. And then I want you to click this icon here, which is the show attributes. And we'll go down to texture and select spaceship. It always gives us a default one, which is spaceship that we can play with. And then what I'm going to do is have you resize your spaceship, kind of like mine here. And we're going to change the physics definition. Right now, the physics definition is none. We're going to change it to the alpha mask. When we change it to alpha mask, you'll notice it's now dynamic, allows rotation. It's affected by gravity. The gravity, though, is pretty light right now. It's like 0.2 restitution, which is the weight of gravity. We're going to change that from 0 point whatever to, let's do like 75. Like 75. 75. Yeah, I'm going to run mine just to see my compiler was acting weird earlier. I might choose a different simulator. Are you guys on 6S Plus? Are you on 6S Plus for simulator? Okay. I'm going to change mine to something different like 6S. Okay, I'll come around and look at yours because I can't see what mine's doing here. So go ahead and run yours as is. Okay. All right, so what you're going to do is go down to the, down further. You change it to alpha, that's fine. A 0.2 to like 0.5 or 0.7 is fine. Yeah, 0.7. Okay, just go ahead and run it like that. Stop. Wait a minute. Might do it. Should drop pretty quick. 0.75 did drop pretty quick. Okay. So what we're going to do, we need a bounding box so where it doesn't drop as quick, where we can kind of see it bounce with buoyancy. So here's what we're going to do. Put another color sprite underneath it. But this time we're just going to use use that red. Like we'll put it like right there. And we're going to change this one from physics type none to bounding rectangle. And let's see what else. I don't want it to be dynamic. Well, it can be dynamic, but I don't want rotation, and I do not want it affected by gravity. I want it to stay static, basically. All right. And on the mass of the spaceship, it's 8.9 right now. I want it to be changed to like 100 mass. So the red sprite, I'll go over that again, that I made, a little rectangle sprite. And mine's finally loading. Resize mine. So this rectangle sprite, I made it, let's see, what was it? Bounding rectangle, unchecked pinned and unchecked, or unchecked allow rotation, unchecked affected by gravity, and then change a spaceship mass to 100 to make it a little heavier. All right, now let's run it again. This should drop. It should still drop. That's fine. There's one other thing I want to do here. Let me bring mine up here. Just a second. File's locked up here. Where's my mass at? They get the mass wrong way. Yeah, that's what it is. All right. So what you want to do is a mass, reverse it, go back to the spaceship, make it, I made mine a 0.3. You just do like a 0.35 is fine. And then on the red rectangle, make that 100% mass. That's what it reverse. What should happen is, I'm gonna move mine up a little closer. What should happen is we should get bounce on this ship now when it drops, because we made this 100 mass, shouldn't move like it was. Spaceship's light, so it's gonna bounce and then settle finally. And the last thing we can do is take, my screen is very small here. I've got to center this stuff in my screen, which I didn't do. So you can make this little minus button here, this little minus button to get yours like mine. Put the spaceship right outside the middle, and I want this kind of right there in the middle as well. And it's yellow lines this time, it lines them up instead of blue. So I want the yellow lines to make sure they're centered. That's really all I care about, is being centered here. And then run it again. Should hopefully center it up a little bit better now. And again, just showing simple physics of what it can do. And it will slowly drop. But just showing you basically the physics of gravity and mass, and that the spaceship has enough pull down on it that it's going to come down slowly. And so it gives you the basic engine building blocks to begin any gaming platform. Is what I want to show them. And again, out of the box, you can bring in, by the way, what's cool about this is you can bring in any object that you want into this and it'll convert it into a sprite. So we could bring those objects technically we created today, bring them in place of the spaceship, do the same logic on them, and they come in and fly down. And again, nothing real fancy there, nothing really you would make, but it shows the concepts of the gaming platform. It's like much more to it than that. Very crude example, but it shows you the buoyancy, the gravity, the mass, which you're familiar with all those terms when it comes to just general math. But here you can really play with it. And again, like right out of the box, like on the spaceship, as soon as you change it to an alpha channel mode, it's going to give you all of the dynamics immediately. So when it hits something, it dynamically is affected by that. It's also affected by gravity, friction, restitution, angular dampening, linear damping, mass. And if we made this heavier, it would even go down faster. We could even make it lighter to make it float up there higher. It also has a bounce ability as well, to where you can, make the bounce heavier than it is or lighter than it is. depending upon what you want. So anyway, just a little demo on piggybacking on the gaming demo I showed you, which, you know, the one I showed you took quite a bit to get done, but this shows you the basics of it. Now, before I forget, let me show you on the overhead. In week 1, when we go to the week 1 tutorial, there's a link here, and I don't expect you to do this between now and next Saturday. It's something you can do, I would guess, in a couple weeks. I would try it if I was you, to get kind of more familiar with Xcode and Swift and things like that. But this gentleman here, Ray. I've done some work for him, and great developer for beginners. But this is a tutorial, walks you through the Sprite Kit versus Unity conversation I talked about the first of class, about how Unity is more cross-platform, Sprite Kit is more for iOS only. But then he goes right into the demo, creating the project. I tweaked it for our purposes, but you know, it's the initial hello world like we did, then goes into the Sprite Kit and what the scenes do, the game scenes, all the way down to, they gave you these to work with. I believe this is the enemy, or no, the shooter. And I just replaced myself with the shooter on that one, because I've about 2 years ago helped him with this initial one, but it's been built more and more as time went on. So it talks about moving the monsters, goes into what's called the SK actions, with gaming development, shooting projectiles, the math involved in that. So anyway, this tutorial goes all the way from beginning to end on creation of physics and collision to end up with what we played with, what I showed you anyway at the end. I made a few modifications to it, but pretty much the same. It's got some different speeds and stuff, and gaming platforms a little different. All the way to the end where it goes over the gaming over functionality. But anyway, that link is in our week 1. I don't expect you to do it. It's just for demo purposes this week anyway, to show you how it works. And then the source code for the game I showed you, the Sprite Kit game on GitHub, is here. As you can see on this one, started back in April 2015, and it's been updated quite a bit to present day. Been used quite a few times. But again, anything you find on Ray Renlick's website is awesome. I've worked with him before and helped him on some tutorials. But it's great stuff on his website. Really good. Recommend it. So what do you guys think of the gaming platform? Pretty easy. I mean, not easy, but it's powerful, I guess you would say. It's a powerful platform, but probably a lot more easier most developers think right out of the box on, oh, okay, I can play with that and tweak that and do some stuff with not really much code to start with as far as to get something functional to play with. So week 1 assignments between now and next week: create an Apple ID. If you have issues with, which I think you said you had issues with your Rock Valley email, right? Maybe it might be a good idea. Would it just not sending you confirmation?
No.
Okay. Well, let's just do this then. If you've not already created your Apple ID, which I'm guessing most of you haven't, just create a brand new Gmail account and do it that way, so we won't have that issue. I will need that submitted here in week 1. Also, GitHub, create a username there in GitHub. All you have to do is sign up. That's it. And then your take-home assignment is a building on what we did in the in-class with the replit. It's more variable type declarations, and learning more about variables. It's worth 100 points, and you'll just submit it, all 3. Really, all you need to do the first 2 here is submit your email, your account ID, your email address you used for your Apple ID, and your GitHub username. You don't have to do the replit one because it gives me that information when you guys submit it anyway. So that's due by next Saturday. Questions on that? Next May 20th at midnight, 11:59, something like that. Podcast is there. You can watch everything we've done so far. Prep for next week. These are, I'm not requiring this or like going to grade you on it, but it's a good reference for you to start with, I think. And by the way, all of these are really nicely put together. In fact, I'll show you one of them here while we're waiting anyway. So I think I've got it here somewhere. Let's see. Let me download from that one. I'll show it to you this way. Really nice format. And again, Apple just released these 2 weeks ago. Somebody run out there and get the pizza guy. He's right out there in the foyer. Thank you. Appreciate that. He's walking around. That's why I left the door open. But I'll just show you the first one, kind of what it looks like. You will need a Mac to do these. You will need Xcode for this one. These are the way these are built. It runs in Playground, but you have to use the Xcode Playground environment.
Is Xcode on every Mac?
It is on every Mac, yes, correct. It is on every Mac, Doug, so you're good to go. And again, I'm not requiring you to do these. It's just a good reference. You can find all this information, by the way, on the in the reading for this week that you're going to be doing. This is just more animated, I think. So here's what the screen looks like, the first one. Welcoming you to the playground. Do you see the dots show up? If you do, hit next, which talks about what a playground is. And then it goes through line by line. And there's some things that has you do, some things that has you just read. Experiment, click the line of code to move the cursors there. Start typing, change a number a few times, add a few more numbers. So here it's just talking about that. Hey, how you doing? All right, thank you. Sir, appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a nice day, guys. Thank you.
And then the way it works as far as a compiler goes on this is, let me show you. Bring it back up here. This one's still running on my compiler, but anyway, the answers will show up here on the right from the calculations on the left. That's the way it should work. Let's see, mine says running calculations right here at the top. Probably helps if I would exit out this project here. Still rendering it. Anyway, eventually the numbers show up over here on the right. That's the way Playground works. So all the calculations here would show up here on the right side. And so anyway, it's a nice layout. You would get all this in your reading, but it's just a more interactive way. And it's not something I'm going to grade you on, so it's not even something you have to do. But it's a good recommendation if you have it. The one thing I do want everybody to do for sure, though, is this reading chapters 4 and 6, because it does go over everything here. And you can read it and go over it. And you can do a lot of the stuff. In fact, everything that has you do here in the playground, the animated playground, can be done in that Replit environment that we're doing, that you guys now are signed up for. You can do all of that in Replit and run it, so you don't have to be here to do that. Okay? Make sense? So definitely do the reading, and it shows you examples in there as well. But when you do the take-home this week, the assignment, it's a build upon from the in-class. So this assignment here for week 1 assignment is just to build upon it, and you just follow instructions line by line what to do. Submit it as always, and that's it. Any questions? All right, well, I'm gonna grab some plates for the pizza. And in the meantime, if you want to grab something to drink, go ahead and do so. Down in the basement, there's water and pop. More glad to, and I'll grab some plates real quick and be right back.